Hello everybody, it's DuckFaden07. We are here for another brew. A very fun deck and maybe perfect home for Elesh Norn, mother of machines. Okay, so let's see what is going on in this deck. This is actually a shell of old modern favorite Boros Broadback. This deck was played in a modern, in a similar share from a long time ago. It deck consisted from this card, Broadback, which says that you choose up to 2 target permanent cards in your graveyard and return them to the battlefield tapped. It has to be on the. They have to be put in the graveyard on the same turn. So this card, this was usually played before with the Ranger of Eos, Ranger Captain of Eos, and the Showdown of Skulls. That kind of cards like Showdown is a 4 mana saga that dies on chapter 3, and Ranger Captain of Eos is a creature you can sacrifice. So in that way, those were 2 targets that you can that goes to the graveyard by themselves, and you can use a Broadback to bring them back and have that nice interaction. But that is no longer needed. There is no need to play those cards. Those cards were always kind of okay, but nothing, not too exciting. In this deck, Showdown of Skulls is of course a very good card advantage, and I still considered playing it. It can really help win that mid-range, mid-game, and give a huge card advantage. And but I decided for some other options, and I'll explain why. So I have our biggest broadback target is Bitter Reunion. Bitter Reunion is a new card enchantment that does some discarding a card and then drawing 2 cards. It's a pretty decent card advantage engine and fills the curve really well. You can sacrifice the Bitter Reunion. It's just you just play it. It sits on the field. It provides card selection you want. You can just discard the land or some other card you don't need at that moment, like multiple Ragavans, if you don't need wildfires, stuff like that, and just get 2 other cards in hand you need. And whenever you want, you can sacrifice the Bitter Union for just 1 mana and then use it with a Broadback to get that card selection again. It works just so well. It's a perfect card selection for this deck and a perfect Broadback target. It's even better than these new cards in the deck like Elesh Norn and Nahiri, but this is actually Elesh Norn deck. So this deck, today's meta, it's really a lot around these elementals. And once you resolve the Elesh Norn, every card in your deck just becomes a lot better. So Furies, Solitudes get double triggers, Bitter Union gets double triggers, Seasoned Pyromancer also gets double triggers, so you get more tokens. And you have a lot of ephemerates deck brought back, so you get those abilities a lot, and it's just very easy to overwhelm the opponent after resolving the Elesh Norn. Okay, so brought back is very good with Elesh Norn. It's a 2 mana card, and if you have 2 fetches in your hand, or maybe a Ghost Quarter and Flagstones, you can easily brought back 2 lands on turn 2, and then on turn be able to play Elesh Norn as early as turn 3, and then immediately scam Solitude, scam Fury, get double ability. It can get pretty crazy. Okay, if you untap on turn 4 after resolving Elesh Norn on turn 3, I think the game is usually pretty much sold. And that's it. You still get to play Ragavan. Ragavan, the best 1 mana creature, Currently in Modern, you still get to play it. You still have Solitude Fury brought back to clear the way for Ragavan. So it still works very well, ramping you into turn 2 Season Pyro, a Fable, a Nahiri, and but also ramping you towards playing turn 3 Elesh, which can be very crazy even turn 4. So also in this deck, Broadback is a very important card that works so well with the complete deck, Bitter Unions, Furies, Solitudes, whatever opponent tries to kill, and the fetches, of course, to ramp towards Elesh. But we have another ramp spell in the deck, and that is Cleansing Wildfire. That is the reason why we're playing 4 Flagstones of Trocare and, one Rustveil Bridge, Artifact Land, Indestructible. So you target these lands with Cleansing Wildfire, and you search your library for a basic land card, put it into play tapped, so you ramp yourself. You also draw a card in the process, and if you target Flagstones, you also search your library for a plains card from the Flagstones. And you also get to draw a card, and if you can also play it on your opponent's land, like Urza Saga, which is very common at the moment, or those 5 color lands, then the 5 color decks that just don't play too many basics, so you can maybe try to screw them. And that's it. Okay, so a lot of card selection in this deck. 4 Bitter Unions. Um, Cleansing Wildfire kind of as a cantrip and a ramp spell. 3 Fable Mirror the Breakers. 4 Season Pyromancers. 3 Nahiris also doing the draw discard. Nahiri is in this deck. Uh, it's a value planeswalker that you play for card selection. You also can discard cards you don't need and find the cards you will need. And you can play it as early as turn 3. And this deck is very good at keeping the battlefield free, so it's very hard to kill them by attacking with creatures, because we can just consistently scam a Solitude Fury in. And it's very hard to. This deck is very good against creature decks, as you will see in the leagues played. And this deck is trying also to get the new Elesh Norn in play as early as possible. This is 5 mana, 4/7 creature, doubling all your triggered abilities and causing your opponent triggered abilities to not happen. Okay, so a lot of it completely shuts off opponents' ATBs, and that is a really important ability to have right now. Okay, so I think this is the most perfect home for Elesh Norn. I saw this far and I was able to play, and it just works perfectly. This deck just feels so powerful, and the Nahiri is also very good here. Okay, so the plan with Nahiri in this deck is try to uh, clear the way, clear the board with the elementals, and then just use Nahiri as a card selection and wait to get Season Pyro or Ragavan into play from the graveyard early, but also plan is to tick her up to the 6 counters and then reanimate these elementals and Elesh Norn, Solitudes, Furies from the graveyard. Okay. That is it. On the sideboard, we're playing 20 lands. 5 of those are the Cleansing Wildfire targets. Some shocks, 1 Ghost Quarter. Ghost Quarter works really well with Flagstones and Broadback. If you have Ghost Quarter Flagstones, you immediately get 2 stuff into the graveyard for your Broadback. If you need to ramp, it can be pretty good. And that's it. 3 shocks, 3 white basics, 1 mountain, and one Rustvale Bridge. That is it. Okay, I found this number of lands uh, to be enough. You can play one more Foundry, of course. And on the sideboard, have some Orvars. Orvars have felt pretty important. Creativity is a pretty common matchup. Um, have Obsidian Charmhouse, so they have been great as a land hate for the deck. They're really good with ephemerates, also broadbacks sometimes. Ingot Chewer, really good. One mana destroy artifact, you can immediately ephemerate him, put a 3/3 body on the field, destroy a lot of artifacts. It works as another copy of Solitude and Fury against Hammer Time Infinity decks. Some artifact hate. This is Soul Guide Lantern is very good here because you can crack it, then bring it back again. It's just the best option for this deck. Engineered explosives, same. You can use it same way against, let's say, rhinos. You can crack it and then return it back with a broadback. It's very cool interaction. Okay, other than that, playing some Cascade Hate and Janet Magistrate, playing some Ragavan and Fury Hate in Forge Tenders. I think these maybe are not needed that much, but it's kind of nice to have it against opponents' Ragavans, as we don't play other one mana removals for the Ragavan. Also, two temporary lockdowns. This card is just brutal against Hammer Time type of decks like Hammer Time, Scales, Affinity, even Grixis Death Shadow, stuff like that. Just playing a lot of cheap mana creatures. It can be also great against Murktide, against Prowess, stuff like that. Okay, so uh, I had very good results with this deck. It's very hard to beat. And last league I finished 4-1 and will just go through the matches. Okay, first match was Maninone playing its Living End. Okay, started with a good hand. My opponent unfortunately immediately discards Ragavan. But I already have one creature in the graveyard against Living End deck, which is okay. I go for the Sacred Foundry, play Bitter Reunion, discard my Solitude, so it's now tricky for my opponent. If they play anything, I'll just still get my Solitude Dragavan back, which is pretty decent. But my opponent goes anyway for the turn 3 Shardless into Living End. I get my Solitude back, exile their Waker. They get another Grief ability plus 2 Architects of Will. But Architects really doesn't matter that much because I have so many of this draw discard spells. Mm, Immediately go for the Spyro, discarding Reunion and Land, getting these all great cards. Okay, so I'm already in such a good position. They did the living end thing, but nothing really happened. I was just in a much better position than my opponent. And I decided to go for the double cleansing wildfire this turn, destroy opponent's red source, and drop myself up to 5 mana so I can play Elesh Norn next turn. I block the architects. I draw into Fury, but I decide not to play it this turn. My opponent had the Brazen Borrower, which was best card they could have at this point, and they were able to bring me down to 6, and with the Brazen Borrower, um, put me in a pretty awkward position. I was able to play Elesh Norn again and kill the Fury. I got haste with Bitter Reunion, attacked for 4 immediately. My opponent plays the Borrower, and now I need to top deck because next turn I'm dead. Luckily, I find the Solitude, so that was my way out. So I wait for the combat in case my opponent tries to play something before in the first main. I go for the Solitude, and now being able to draw or to gain 3, it was a pretty good position for me. Still have, I was able to attack with both of my creatures, have 2 Season Pyros in the graveyard to block a Grief, and then that's it, my opponent concedes, so it was time for game 2. This deck just has a lot of this draw discard going on, so it's not easy for my living end opponent. Again, I started the game with a very good hand, the Ragavan. It's very good against them. Also, Giant Magistrate for turn 2, and I immediately have Ephemerate to protect it. So it seems like a pretty easy game. Even find that the second Magistrate, which is an overkill at this point. I still have to be careful of my opponent hardcasting stuff like Endurance, Subtlety, to block my creatures, so I can't really attack with these Magistrats unless I'm sure they don't have it or have some kind of protection. My opponent goes for Shardless Agent to block my Ragavan. So I decide to go for the Reunion here. And I decided to scam this Solitude. Then I didn't even use the Ephemerate. I really wanted to still hold the Ephemerate and to protect my Giant Magistrate. And I played the second one with Ephemerate in hand, and my opponent concedes. That was pretty quick game 1. We will now watch game 2 against Hammer Time opponent. So, okay, my opponent starts with a mulligan to 4 cards. Pretty bad for them. I got pretty good hand here. So I just had a really lot of stuff. And I could have played this differently. I could have put the ability first, so the evoke resolves first. I would have chance of like maybe my opponent not responding with Blacksmith Kill on evoke, but on the Fury target spell, and then I would be maybe able to use the brought back in response to the skill and kill the Ornithopter anyway. This way I wasn't able to do it, but I was in such a good position. My opponent had such a low number of cards in hand. I'm still already attacking with the Fury. And I decided to put more creatures on the field, start pressuring my opponent. They just don't have anything going on. They find a land finally to play their Pure Steel Paladin, so they have tried to equip, but I ephemerate and response, kill both of their creatures, and they concede. That was too much. Okay, so game 2. This deck is pretty good against Hammer Time. It's really, it has hard for the Hammer Time player. You have so many solutions. These Cleansing Wildfires for the Urza Saga, ability to scam 8 elementals, 8 cards that can scam elementals early, Solitude Fury. I think this is maybe the best anti-hammer deck in entire Modern. Not to mention that Ignature is often better than Solitude and Fury, and just additional brought back ephemerate target. It's just very good. My opponent didn't have much after me destroying the Urza Saga and Brute, so they just probably hold the interaction, pass the turn, which is very good for me. Okay, so Okay, draw my Nahiri, play the Nahiri. Play the Nahiri, I'm not in a danger of my opponent attacking next turn. Gingerbrute is dead, they don't have creatures on the field, so I just casually use my Nahiri's ability to do some draw discards. I got it wasn't really necessary for me to do all these things I did now, but I really wanted to. Um, it seemed like my opponent just has the same interaction, so I wanted to um, start attacking my opponent, pressuring the opponent. I decided to scam both Igniture and Solitude in, but they ended up having a pretty good hand, Pure Steel Paladin with two equipments, which is probably the best they could have at this point. So I use another, use Nahiri again. I killed the Paladin, and I was planning on saving Broadback to kill the Ornithopter and the Hammer. I had Nahiri on 6, so still in a pretty good position. Yeah, so this was pretty good for me. I could have let them just kill the Nahiri and block with Solitude, so I bring back Solitude plus Nahiri. But I wanted to get rid of the Hammer too. So I destroyed both Ornithopter and the Hammer and was in a great position again, attacking with two creatures, another Broadback in hand, opponent just two cards in hand, but yeah, they had the second Inkmat and the Pure Steel Paladin and the Colossus Hammer kind of perfect hand, so I wasn't able to do anything. They just one-shot me here, and that was the way I lost this game, which is usually very hard for the Hammer. And game three, I was forced to mulligan on 5 cards, but successfully won the game anyway. I kept one lander, and not getting a second land was not good. But when you have Solitude plus double Ephemerate, everything is possible. Still no land turn 3, just one land. My opponent has the Sentinel, Stoneforge Mystic, typical turn 2, turn 3 play, Sigarda 8. They go for the kill immediately. They play the double hammer on turn 3 on the Esper Sentinel. Uh, go for the kill. So at this point I go for the Solitude. I exile Sentinel first, so I don't have to pay the ephemerate tax. This is really important. You can, this way you don't let them draw a card with the ephemerate and Esper Sentinel. They play another Stoneforge Mystic. They go for a third hammer on the Gingerbrute, attack for 11, which is fine, not lethal. So I just go for another ephemerate. On Gingerbrute, they have the skill, so I let the 13 damage. It is fine because I have the ephemerate rebound. Still exile the Gingerbrute. My opponent is on lot of life, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, my opponent plays the Pet Exile, providing me with a third land to play my temporary lockdown next turn, exiling all those hammers, Sigarda's 8, and Stoneforge Mystic. So pretty good. My opponent, after this play, needs the Havar Might. I already know Havar Might this turn. I don't know how much do they play, but it is probably there. It was probably their only out after resolving the lockdown. Okay, what's happening? I got now my lands, Flooded Strand, planes from my opponent. So it's good. I play the lockdown, destroy my entire opponent's field, exile. Okay, so at this point, my opponent is on one card in hand, and it's basically Havar Might or Bust. I find another land. It wasn't a good idea, really. I should have maybe waited on for my turn to use the Broadback to ramp that land so I'm able to play the Charmau and Elesh. But my opponent plays the Urza Saga, which was pretty good for me because I was able to now to cast my Charmau and destroy the Saga in the process. Okay, what's happening? So just play the Charmau, destroy the Saga. My opponent is on 35, but it doesn't matter. Once I control the game, they won't be able to get out of it. Okay, so I just this is so slow. Uh, I don't know why. Sometimes this happens, and the replay just goes so slow and doesn't want to speed up. Again, have the Elesh Norn, Fury brought back, Spyro in hand, a lot of good cards. I decided to go for the Spyro and leave the Fury in hand. They just find the Ornithopter, equip the Shadow Spear. This can be dangerous, as you saw in the last game, if they have the Paladin +1, +4th hammer, but they only have one hammer left in the deck, so chances of that are really not that high. I go for the Fury kill Ornithopter because I was planning on playing Season Pyro anyway. Okay, I kill the Ornithopter, play the Spyro, discard the Elesh, draw new 2 cards. So I have a lot of creatures at this point. I'm going to be able to finish my opponent soon. It is so slow, this replay. Please, please, please just go faster. Okay, I find 2 more cards. Okay, I play the Chewer, play the Reunion. Start attacking with they have double paladin, but the paladin doesn't do anything with all hammers being below my temporary lockdown. So I play the reunion, play the wildfire. I try to destroy their green source in case they draw the Havar Might, they can't use it. And I successfully did it with the second wildfire. So that now my opponent needs a green source plus Hair Might, so it's impossible for them to get out of this, and that was the game. Okay, so just a second, I'll go first for other 2 games and save this one for last. Okay, so next win. This was again a Hammer Time matchup. I think Hammer Time is just very easy for this deck. Playing 4 Solitudes, 4 Furies, then that Charmau, which destroys the Urza Sagas, plus the guy that destroys the artifacts with Evoke, and Ephemerates and Broadbacks, Elesh. It's just very good at dealing with the Hammer Time stuff. It's really, I think it's probably one of the worst matchups for the Hammer Time. I play the Reunion, just want to find lands at this point. Play the Bitter Reunion, find Restful Bridge, Ragavan have the Solitude with two Ephemerates. My opponent goes for the Hammer, equip they're completely tapped out, have just one colorless mana. So I go for the Solitude, Ephemerate, exile all three of their creatures. And now I have Ragavan, a dash plus another Ephemerate if needed. And this game is over at this point. I don't even bother playing cards from my opponent's deck. I play this Spyro and use sorry this what is it called? Ephemerate and response. Attack with everything. Give my team haste. Draw two more cards with Spyro. Still have Ephemerate. Resolving, my opponent finds the Pure Steel Paladin equips two of their creatures, but I'm able to kill one with Ephemerate Rebound and draw Solitude for another one. I played that a bit too aggressive. I should have. There was no need to do it. And I just wanted to finish this as fast as possible. Um, Okay, so attacking for a lot of damage each turn. It's a two turn clock. My opponent plays the Mystic, but yeah, it's definitely over. So I just hardcast my Fury and finish my opponent. That was game one. So let us check game two against second Hammer Time opponent. Again, decent hand with the temporary lockdowns, Ephemerate, Ragavan. I just need either Solitude or Fury. So I just start with the Ragavan here. I find my Igniture to destroy the Sentinel. My opponent tries to go skill. I play Ephemerate on the Igniture, and my opponent immediately concedes. That was a very quick win. Game two, they realize they don't have much chance. Okay, so win number four against a Twitch streamer playing Golgari. I think Golgari something like Golgari Rock. Okay, so they had a hand full of removal like Fatal Pushes, Assassin's Trophies, Infernal Grasp, stuff like that, and I just didn't play any creatures, so it was pretty bad for them. They just went for Gigant turn 3. I played double Bitter Reunion on turn 4 with the Broadbacks in my hand, which I can use again. So I just went to play my Elesh Norn, and then win the game next turn with multiple ATBs. My opponent has the removal. They have the Totsis too. I get rid of the Spyro. So I go for the second Elesh Norn, but they were able to kill this one too. I go for I go for the Broadback double Bitter Reunion with the Broadback. My opponent tries to kill the trophy in response, but I ephemerate to say my Elesh Norn that gets two Bitter Reunions on the field, which draws me a lot of cards, and my opponent concedes in response. That was game one. Sorry. Um, Let us check the game two. In win number 4 against Golgari. Uh, uh, Match number 2, I'm on the draw and I keep one lander. They go traverse on turn 1, I play my Ragavan, find the Fury. My opponent probably boarded out a lot of their removals, so they didn't have an answer for turn 1 Ragavan, which was pretty good. I decided against using Ephemerate here. I rather just wanted to use the Cleansing Wildfire, draw a card, try to find the land, prevent them from making construct tokens. So I just play my Soul Guide Lantern. My opponent did find a Thirst for the Ragavan, and I sacrificed the Soul Guide to find my land drop. My opponent just plays the Haywire Might, and I have multiple options here. I decide to get rid of this Haywire Might, and with flashbacking Ragavan from the graveyard, my opponent has the removal for Nahiri, so they use it immediately. I have another one in hand, but decide to go for the Fable. I really want to find that fifth land, that was the reason. And with Fable, if Fable attacks next turn, it can provide me mana to hardcast my elementals, and even maybe if I draw a land, save the Ephemerate. I let the 4 damage, try to see what I'll draw in my next turn. So I do another draw. With the Fable, I decide to go for the Solitude now, use the Ephemerate, but still holding another Ephemerate, just destroying their creatures and exiling their creatures, being able to attack there, and opponent now doesn't have much cards in hand, and all my draws are much better than opponents, so a pretty easy game. At this point, they just go for the Shadow Spear, Bloodchief Thirst on my Fable token. So I'm just now able to start attacking with Solitude. My opponent finds another Urza Saga. I find Season Pyro. They go for the reflection and response. I do the ephemerate. I discard 2 furies, got another ephemerate, and got another one rebound resolving on my next turn. In this way, making a lot of these Season Pyro tokens, helping me end the game faster. So in response to ability, I use Ephemerate again, so I still get the rebound trigger on my next upkeep, which is pretty good. Discard the Cleansing Wildfire, use the Fable, discard land. I play the Cleansing Wildfire, destroy their Urza Saga, and get second Solitude. That was it. Okay, that was game over. So in the end, discarded 2 Furies, ended up with 2 Solitudes in hand. My opponent concedes at this point too much value going on. So that was it. And we'll now check out the defeat against Creativity. Successfully won game 1. Plus had the Orvars on the sideboard, so I think I was pretty favored to win. But just didn't. My Creativity opponent had more luck, I guess. Okay, so went for turn 2 BT Reunion. Didn't need the Classic Wildfire, need to find the lands. hoping for Fable to provide good value here. My opponent goes for the Wren, and I play my Fable. They go Heat, which was fine. Fine at this point. I get all the Fable uh, abilities and try to find. I just try to resolve this Elesh. The Elesh shuts off most of their deck. So I play another Fable, leave one mana open, so my opponent thinks I'm holding Bolt or some kind of interaction. So they don't go for the creativity this turn. That was the plan. When you're leaving mana, they mostly, with this kind of deck, they mostly think you're holding Bolt. So it's a bit too risky for them to go for it. And this is great for me because now I'm able to resolve the Elesh Norn, and that is definitely one of the ways to win this match. Okay, so I fetch a land here, I go for the attacks, and in this way I can play the Elesh Norn and hold the Ephemerate as a protection for him. So just to play the Elesh Norn, my opponent goes for the Jar Mine before that, and still they can target creativity, target my Elesh with their creativity, so creativity is a good spell against it. Okay, my opponent goes for it. I use my Ephemerate, as I said before I would, but they got Archon on the field, so I definitely need something. I ephemerate my Fable in the upkeep, so I got the Fable ability again, and with the ability I got many elementals in hand, so I use them to destroy both Archon and attack the Renin 6. They destroy my Fury, kill my Reflection of Kikijiki, but it was fine, still had another Fury to kill both of their creatures and attack for a lot of damage. I think this was even lethal. Yeah, this was lethal, they needed to kill something. But guess they didn't have it, and it was Dwarven Mine doesn't trigger because of the Elesh, so they didn't have a blocker here, and it was lethal damage. Okay, that was a win, game 1. Unfortunately, had to mulligan to 6. Had to mulligan the hand with Orvar. I start with a decent hand. I have the Reunion, the Wildfire, but my opponent goes for the totally discards my Solitude, which is a very good card against them. So just to play the Wildfire, try to ramp myself, draw a card, but my opponent has the Spell Pierce. They definitely had such a very good hand. I go for the Reunion. Again, pass the turn by holding mana open, pretending I have some interaction, of course. My opponent goes for the Goblin Shaman attack. I guess they didn't have it in this situation. I pass the turn again, bluffing interaction. Of course, I have the ability to find it with the Broadback and Reunion. That was my plan. So this is why Reunion is such a good card with Broadback. You can, in this kind of situation, just go Broadback and sacrifice the land, sacrifice Reunion, and try to bring both with Broadback. It's just a very good value, like getting back a land plus Reunion can be very good. My opponent had another Pierce, and in this situation, I um, didn't get the lands to cast my Elesh Norn. If I was just able to cast Elesh Norn, if I found the land to cast Elesh Norn, it would be a completely different game. But yeah, no Elesh Norn and no ability to scam the Fury meant my opponent can go for large creativity on their turn. They didn't have creativity in the end, but they find persist with the Bitter Union. So they go for the persist here. I I needed a red card to maybe try to pitch cast Fury Ephemerate. Didn't get it and had to concede the match. Okay, so it was also kind of a close match. They find that persist after a long time. I didn't have my Soul Guide Lantern. I keep a very good hand on the draw with Orvar, Bitter Reunion, Fable, a lot of good cards for this matchup. So I was again able to go for the Reunion on turn 2. Discard Ephemerate, I don't really need that right now. I have the Fable, have the Spyro, have Orvar, have the Fury. My opponent unfortunately goes for Totsis on Spyro. This was very deciding moment. And also this. I thought my opponent probably has another Pierce in hand. I didn't have any other plays available. So I just decided to make them use their Pierce. But unfortunately my Fable got countered. The Fable kind of felt really good in this situation. Unlucky for to not being able to use it. So I go for another reunion here, discard one of the Furies, and find the lands. I really needed lands at this point. So it was a good draw. Still have Orvar in hand, so my opponent definitely can't go for it next turn. They need to wait at least 2 more turns. So that's a pretty good situation for me. I just I was able to just play the Fury, kill the Vren, make them use another spell to get rid of Fury. Okay, so I go for a very common play with this deck. I sack both reunions and get a lot of card selection. So I sacrifice both of my reunions, then use the broadback to bring them both in. I discard 2 cards, draw 4 cards, and then I played these planes. I should have played the planes. Should have left it in hand because my opponent knows for the Orvar they will try to play around it. And so I find myself in a bad situation. I could have been in a much better. And my opponent goes for the Totsis, discards one of the Orvars, and the creativity was last card in their hand. So if I didn't play that land, or if I didn't sacrifice my Soul Guide Lantern like that, I could have drawn another card. Could have drawn another card. Unfortunately, the engineered explosives were on the top. This card, if I draw this card turn before, it would completely solve this match and win me the game. So that was it. I had the double Orvar, but still I wasn't able to win. Against creativity, my opponent had exactly what they needed. That second Tatsis sealed it when they discovered I have. Um, Second Orvar, they were able to play around it again, and that was it. I failed with playing that land. If I didn't play that land, I would get additional ability from. Uh, I would my Archon would live. I would be able to attack. Uh, get additional ability from the Archon. They will be forced to sacrifice one of their Archons. Probably trade with my Archon, and then I would have this Solitude to kill the third Archon. So it would be a completely different game. I just it was definitely a misplay and cost me the trophy with this very cool list. I have played some leagues before with this list and had a very good results. Deck feels very good. It's just accomplishing its plan very efficient. Have a very good early threat in Ragavan. Season Pyro Fable also. Brought back Cleansing Wildfire, trying to ramp towards hardcasting. Solitude, Fury, Elesh, Norn, and Nahiri. And once you resolve those spells, they're no joke. They're just providing very good. They're very good threats, providing card selection, removal, and they're very good at finishing the games. Okay, so this is it. As I said, I'm really happy with all the cards in the main, and I think Nahiri is good in this deck, but it's really an Elesh Norn deck. Elesh Norn is really important for this deck. Nahiri is decent, but not as important as some other cards, and I could easily see Nahiri being a Showdown of the Skalds or Ranger, Captain of Eos, some other stuff. So that is it. I've tried that cards before, and I think Nahiri is good too, but still haven't decided between Ranger, Captain of Eos, Nahiri, and some other options. But I think Nahiri is a pretty interesting one, but it is still kind of a flex spot for this deck. Just have to play some more before finally deciding if it's Nahiri is definite here, but all other cards definitely are. This is Elesh Norn deck. You try to um, turbo Elesh Norn into play. Sometimes able to do it turn 3, mostly turn 4. We have Ragavan helping in that, Fable helping to play it earlier, Broadbacks, Cleansing Wildfires, a lot of cards really, and it's mostly fast enough, as you could see from the league I played. And sideboard is also good. These forged tenders, I think they're kind of okay against Ragavan decks. One mana solution for the Ragavan, which can be also useful against Burn, against Calibrated Blast, probably Domain Zoo, to stop that Tribal Flames and the cards like that. And all other cards on the sideboard are very good, but Forged Tender is kind of variable, can be something else if necessary. And that's it. Okay, hope you like the deck, hope you like the gameplay. That's it for this time. If you want to help the channel, click like, click subscribe, and that's it for today. Goodbye.